اهلا بيكم في كايرو دار. هنكمل مع بعضنا اهم 100 سؤال في البايو. السؤال اللي معانا دلوقتي give reason for each of the following. The sweat gland is surrounded by great number of blood capillaries. كتير قوي يقول لي مثلا the alveoli inside the lung is surrounded by huge number of blood capillaries. يقول لي مثلا the villi containing a huge number of blood capillaries. The pomaine capsule containing a glomeruli or huge number of blood capillaries. كل huge number to increase the surface area. وبعدين نشوف الفانكشن بتاع الحاجه اللي بنقولها. هنا the sweat gland is surrounded by great number of blood capillaries to increase the surface area of the absorption of the sweat components from the blood. Because the sweat gland is responsible for the excretion of the excess amount of water with the salts and the little amount of nitrogenous wastes, and also responsible for the regulation of the body temperature. So the answer to increase the area of sweat absorption from the blood. The next question. There are fat glands near the free end of the hair. At the end of the hair, the presence of fatty gland or sebaceous gland. The sebaceous gland or the fatty gland is responsible for the secretion of oily substance. These oily substance facilitates the exit of the hair and also to keep the hair more soft and more malleable, so that protect the hair against broken, and also facilitate the exit of the hair from the skin. لان الشعره بتطول من تحت مش من فوق، فعشان تطول من تحت وتخرج يبقى محتاجه عشان تخرج the presence of oily substance which is secreted from the sebaceous gland or fatty gland, and also to keep the hair soft. The next question. We can live by one kidney. The man can live by one kidney. What would happen if one of the two kidneys is damaged or removed? The other kidney can grow and carry out the function of both of the two kidneys and also extract the sufficient amount of the urine components from the blood. So the kidney or one of the two kidney or the other kidney will grow or become bigger and doesn't affect the function of the two kidneys or can remove the components of the urine from the blood. The next question. If you touch a mimosa leaflets, its petioles soon drops. The mimosa is the complex pinnate leaves or compound pinnate leaves. These leaves consist of primary racks, carry 4 secondary racks, and each secondary racks carry 2 leaflets at the two sides or 2 rows of leaflets at the 2 sides. But at the base of the primary racks, secondary racks, and the leaflets is the presence of swelling structure. The swelling structure of the primary racks or the primary petiole is called the primary pulvineus. The lower part of the cells as the primary pulvineus more sensitive than the others. If you touch the mimosa leaflets, the water inside the cells is moved to the neighbor tissue, so shrink takes place of these cells or at the cells at the lower side of the pulvineus. That help these pulvineus act as a joint and move downward, and also that takes place in the secondary racks and the leaflets. So the plant appear as a wilty plant if you touch these parts of the plant or the leaflets of the plant. So the cells of the lower surface of the primary pulvineus shrink. This leads to diffusion of the water to the neighboring tissue. So the primary petiole or the primary racks hang downwards, while the secondary ones will depress and then the leaflets drop. So that takes place if you touch the mimosa leaflets, and the water inside the pulvineus act as a physiological support. So the physiological support act as a temporary support. That means the support according to the presence of water. At the presence of water, the presence of support, but the diffusion of water to the neighboring cells or the passage of water to the neighboring cells by osmosis, that's called the losing this physiological support, so it acts as a joint and move downward. The next question. Inability of fat glands to secrete its oily secretion during the exit of the hair from the skin. What would happen if the inability of fatty glands or sebaceous gland to secrete the oily secretion or the oily substance. طبعا احنا قلنا ان الاويلي substance دي responsible for the help in the exit of the hair from the skin and facilitate the pellicle of the hair or keep the hair more soft and protect it against broken. So the absence of the oily substance or the presence of insufficient amount of oily substance which is secreted from the sebaceous gland, that's the exit of the hair from the skin will be difficult, and also the hair will be dry and exposed to broken. The next question. What would happen in each of the following? A nerve cell is stimulated by another neighboring cell. The cells or the nerve membrane is polarized at rest. That means the outer membrane is positive but the inner one is negative. But if one of the two cells is stimulated or one cell is stimulated by the another neighboring cells, that means the presence of synapses between one cell and the neighbor one. That means the passage of neurochemical transmitter from one cell to the neighbor one through the synaptic cleft. What would happen if the acetylcholine reach the membrane of the neighbor cell? That will change the state of the cell membrane from the state of polarization into depolarization, and also the cell will regain it is repolarization, the action of polarization into depolarization and repolarization that stimulates the neighboring point, and the propagation of nerve impulses takes place in the second cell. So the answer, that will form a new stimulus in the neighboring nerve cells because depolarization acts as a new stimulus for the neighboring point. Because the acetylcholine pass through the cleft and reach the membrane, that changes selective permeability of the membrane of the neighbor cells. So that allows the passage of the sodium ions to move from outside to inside, changes the state of polarization into depolarization. And the gates of the potassium ions are open and allow the potassium ions to move from inside to outside. That changes the state of depolarization into repolarization. So the passage of the neurochemical transmitter through the cleft and reach the postsynaptic membrane that stimulates the neighboring point. The next question. What would happen in each of the following? The axons of all nerve cells are uncovered. We understand that the axon of the cell is covered with myelin layers which is secreted by Schwann cells. But the parts which is not covered by myelin layer which is called the Ranvier nodes. The nerve impulse pass in the form of the part of the axon which is covered with myelin layer. It passes in the form of the velocity 140 meters per second in the part which is covered by myelin layer. But at the part which is not covered by myelin layer, which is called the Ranvier node, the nerve impulse passes in the form of 12 meters per second only. So the passage of the nerve impulses depends on the diameter of the nerve axon or the nerve fiber. When the diameter of the nerve fiber increases by the presence of myelin, jumping takes place of the impulses through the part which is called the myelin layer or which is covered by myelin layer to reach 140 meters per second. But if no myelin layer or the axons are not covered with myelin layer, that means the nerve impulses will passes by the velocity 12 meters per second only, and the nerve cells suffer from the inhibition of the nerve impulses, or the velocity of the nerve impulses decreased because it depends on the diameter of the nerve fiber. The next question. What would happen in each of the following cases? Arrival of the nerve impulses to the nerve cells during refractory period. What about the refractory period? The refractory period is the time from 0.01 to 0.03 seconds where the nerve membrane can't respond to any stimulus whatever its strength. So this part or this time that needed to help the membrane to regain its physiological properties to be ready to receive another impulses. So the arrival of the nerve impulses during the refractory period, the nerve cells not respond to any stimulus whatever its strength, because the nerve membrane regain its physiological properties to be ready to respond to new stimulus. لما بنيجي نرسم النيرف امبulses كده نرسمه من negative 70 ده اسمها polarization. نطلع لبوزيتيف 40 دي اسمها depolarization. وهو نازل للريبولاريزيشن بينزل شويه بعد النيجاتيف 70 ويرجع تاني للنيجاتيف 70. الحته الكيرف اليو شيب صغيره دي هي دي اللي احنا بنقول عليها 0.01 to 0.03 second, which is called the refractory period, where the membrane can't respond to any stimulus whatever its strength, because it regains its physiological properties to be ready to receive another stimulus. The next question: what's meant by each of the following? The genetic code. The genetic code is the 3 successive nucleotides that located on the mRNA and represent a certain amino acids. At the start codon, which is called the AUG, that's the codon of methionine amino acids, which act as the first amino acid in the polypeptide chain during the translation or the formation of protein synthesis. The next part: what's meant by anticodon? Anticodon is the 3 successive nucleotides on the tRNA that paired with the codon on the mRNA and ribosome during the protein synthesis. واحنا في البروتين سينس بيبقى في mRNA معاه ريبوسوم، يعني اسمه ريبوسومال سب يونت ولارج ريبوسومال سب يونت، ده بنقول عليه mRNA ريبوسوم كومبلكس. انتيكودون ده ايه؟ The 3 successive nucleotides on the tRNA that paired with the codon, which is the 3 nucleotides on the mRNA, and they carry a certain amino acids that represent or that act as the amino acid of the codon that located on the mRNA. So the anticodon are 3 successive nucleotides on the tRNA and they paired with a suitable mRNA codon for the mRNA ribosome complex that during the protein synthesis. The next question: what's meant by each of the following? The initiation code. Initiation means start. So what about the start codon in the mRNA? The start codon or the initiation codon is the AUG codon, which represents the methionine amino acids that located on the mRNA at the 5' end of the mRNA where the translation takes place. يبقى الترانسليشن بيبدا من عند ال 5' of the mRNA. عند ال 5' بيبقى في حاجه اسمها site of binding site of ribosome، وبعدين اول كودون يقابلنا اسمه AUG that represents the methionine amino acid which act as the first amino acid in the polypeptide chain. What's meant by stop codon? The stop codon is the 3 successive nucleotides on the mRNA where the presence of a special protein which is called the releasing factor that to terminate the protein synthesis. So the stop codon is the codon on the mRNA which terminate the protein synthesis. There are 3 stop codons, UGA, UAG and UAA. That is the 3 stop codons that located on the mRNA. My dear students, that's the end of this part. Thank you very much. Goodbye and good luck.